Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is the show where I look at every classic Doctor Who story, plus a bunch of Big Finish audio dramas, one episode a day, 7 days a week. And today, on the 19th of July 2019, we are starting a look at the first part of the finale for the second series of Fourth Doctor Adventures, the Dalek Contract, starting with Part 1. Now, the Dalek Contract, much like Nicholas, is written by Nicholas Briggs, and much like Nicholas Briggs' other contributions to this season, it's an episode that is a passion project. It's essentially the Doctor takes the randomizer out of the TARDIS so he can go to the Proxima system and basically try to see, because he hasn't been contacted by the Lans since that last story. The Doctor has decided, all right, we're gonna go and see, we're gonna see what this system is about, see what's going on, and there's a haze of Zebulon particles, which are dangerous to time travelers, surrounding the Proxima system in the orbit of Proxima Major, and also, for whatever reason, Proxima Major seems to be out of its orbit. Now, that is our setup, and for this first episode, the Doctor and Romana actually spend and K9 all spend about half of it in the TARDIS in this first episode, which is kind of a shame, because you could really have something good here if we got them in. Part of this episode is because it's the only story where K9 and the Daleks will actually meet and fight each other. There's a lot of stuff there. You could have K9 going on basically a murder spree against the Daleks. Something that is really something that is really, really, really important. They have a lot of fun here. It's one where you get the problem of a plot that's like, hey, we're doing this weird story, and we're not necessarily having fun with it. It's sort of just being like, oh, here's the story we're doing, and here's what's going on in this plot. Now, Nicholas Briggs does actually not make the mistake of having the Daleks appear as an end of episode cliffhanger, which is perhaps one of the better aspects of the story, making it kind of feel like this is two episodes squished together, which isn't necessarily bad. Again, it's a good episode. It's a good start. It gives us some intrigue, gets us going right into the story, and really, really gives you some really fun stuff to play around with. The Doctor is obviously Tom Baker and Mary Tam have a lot of fun. You have the Daleks on this planet, while Cuthbert and Mr. Doric are sort of surrounding it, basically being the ones who are like, yeah, we're basically having our we're basically, I'm being in league with the Daleks because they're Daleks, and why not? Because I'm Cuthbert, and this is my plan. Cuthbert is a lot of fun here. David Warner gives a great performance, even though we don't actually get much of his plan. Like, he doesn't get much time in this first episode. Probably because it is only a first episode, as we're dealing with, freedom fighters trying to beat the Conglomerate on this planet, on this enormous planet where, you have a Dalek occupation. And what's interesting is that the big cliffhanger of the episode is sort of a subversion of the traditional Part 1 cliffhanger. Is instead of a Dalek saying, "You will be exterminated," it's, "You will be arrested." It's sort of that puzzling, oh, what's this? This is weird. Daleks not acting like Daleks? What is this? Which is, genuinely, it's genuinely a good twist and a good, like, oh, this is how we're ending it? Doing something different than what you may initially think. Because it's something that I can most definitely applaud. I can most definitely applaud Nicholas Briggs for doing. He does give it's a good story. It's a good opener, overall. It's just not, perhaps, it's not perfect by any means, but it's good. It's got its flaws, but it still has that sort of labor of love that you expect from a Nicholas Briggs script. Also, you have some really nice stuff with the Daleks done here. Like, he has the Daleks be modified, so they're like modifications of the Daleks, so they can basically adapt to the weather, because the weather of Proxima Major, which should be temperate, it's been taken out of its orbit. So we're kind of doing maybe a little bit of rehashing of Dalek invasion of Earth here, but taking it out of its orbit basically makes it winter. And making it a winter, again, provides a good setting with fun characters for kind of what can be described as almost something close to an all-around good time. Perhaps Briggs could have tried to, get a little more urgency and get things moving a little quicker, because the story starts and you really don't have as much. So overall, I'm going to give the Dalek Contract Part 1 a 7 out of 10. It is the 19th of July, 2019, and I just finished listening to Part 2 of the Dalek Contract. The Dalek Contract, as an episode, the second episode is good. It kind of just retreads old ground in terms of Dalek stories. The big ending thing is this whole, is one, the Doctor surrendering to the Daleks because they have Romana captured. Immediately after, Romana says, "Oh, he'll never surrender to you." In what is, I think, supposed to be some sort of heartbreaking moment, even though it's not really heartbreaking, because the Doctor obviously cares about Romana. It's something that he would do. It's not all that different from what, the Doctor just generally does as a character. We don't actually get to know Cuthbert's plans here. There's a lot here. Like, a lot of it is Romana, who Cuthbert calls Ramona, I think almost purely to wind her up. Just because, winding her up, I guess, is fun. But also, it basically gives him an excuse to really show how little he cares. And it gives David Warner something to do, because David Warner is great as the character. You have you have the Doctor. You have the Doctor. Really meeting up with a resistance group, and the resistance group basically going to try to form a plan to attack to attack the Daleks and to beat the Conglomerate in what kind of works out as what feels like it's supposed to be it becomes a very paint by numbers Doctor Who story. It's enjoyable, but it isn't quite doing anything groundbreaking. It's not being like, oh, the Daleks, the Daleks are really dangerous here, and you really get a sense, of sort of what danger they can cause and what fear they have over people. You just sort of get they're dangerous, they're the Daleks. Here's what you have. You don't actually get too much of what the story's going for the Daleks. They're not the complete villains that they usually are portrayed as, and they're most definitely not. A lot of it's like the episode having them work as a security force for Cuthbert is a good idea in theory, but in practice it doesn't quite work. Mainly because as a as a as a story, it's one of those stories where you really think that, okay, this could be this could be amazing. It could be a great sort of sort of great exploration of characters, and a great way to tell the story in perhaps a new fashion. You don't necessarily have to have a lot of the dark elements. Like, you could have Cuthbert and the Daleks as actually scheming villains, actually having them scheme. But here you don't really see much of that. We don't actually get a lot of scenes with Cuthbert and the Daleks together. Like, we get introduced to the idea of the Daleks as security about halfway through this episode. So there's a very good chance that the second half of the story might be changing into different stories. But this is one where you really kind of lose a lot of the a lot of the nuances and a lot of the real sense of sort of adventure here. You could be you could have a lot with the Doctor and Romana here, but keeping them set a lot up and K9, you really don't have a lot of fun. It really has the episode come out to be just sort of okay. Like, K9 attacking the Daleks is great, and has there's a lot of there's some good stuff here, but as a second episode, it doesn't move along quite at the right pacing for it to be one of the best ones, one of the greatest. Like, here's a really engaging finale. It doesn't engage. It takes a major step down from the first episode, and really sort of goes sort of almost down a little hole into sort of failure. So overall, I'm going to give the Dalek Contract Part 2 a 5 out of 10. That being said, we add up the scores and average them out to give the Dalek Contract a final score of 6 out of 10. Thank you, everybody, for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. As always, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I always like to hear from you. Let's get a conversation going in the comments. Did you agree with me? Did you disagree? And as always, thank you for watching this installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. And join me next time when we conclude the second series of Fourth Doctor Adventures and have our final story to include Mary Tam as Romana in the final phase.